The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on here today?
Get ready for a no-nonsense approach to recovery. It's that guy who's living the dream rather than dreaming of living. You know him as the Addiction Doctor. Now, here's the Monty Man to introduce Dr. Rob Kelly on this episode of Take 12 Recovery Radio's The Rob Kelly Hour.
Well, greetings one and all, and welcome to the Rob Kelly Hour. Now, this month, Dr. Rob is not able to join us for this broadcast. He is out working really hard to contribute even more to the recovery community. And we are going to miss him. We do have a sound clip, though, from his show from last Friday with Rick P. and his co-host, Kristen Nolan, on some of the concerns of today's Alcoholics Anonymous and maybe where we've kind of gone astray a little bit. And especially when we're talking about working with others, working with people that are seeking help for alcoholism. But before we do any of that, I want to address this issue of working with others. Now listen, here's the deal. I get a lot of email from people that want to know, how do I, as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous or somebody that has been attending meetings for a while, how do I work with other alcoholics? How do I do that? How do I sponsor them? Well, first of all, are you a true alcoholic? If you're not, and if you don't know what that means, that's something you really need to find out. Secondly, have you worked all 12 steps? Have you had a spiritual awakening as a result of those steps? If you have not, in this broadcaster's humble opinion, you probably ought not be sponsoring anybody if you haven't done the work yourself. Now, if you have, and you're searching for a way to work with others, it's simple. Open up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, Chapter 7, Working with Others. Now, I'm going to read a portion of this chapter to you to kind of get you going on this thing so you can understand AA's take, according to the conference-approved literature, on how to work with others seeking recovery from alcoholism. But first, I want to make it very clear, I don't speak for Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not even claiming membership in said program. What I am sharing with you is what the basic text of AA does say. Now, this is Chapter 7 from the 3rd edition, Working with Others. It states, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. Life will take on new meaning. So this is a promise of step 12. Life will take on a new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know that you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. Perhaps you're not acquainted with any drinkers who want to recover. You can easily find some by asking a few doctors, ministers, priests, or hospitals. Now remember, back in the day, that's where you found most of your alcoholics. Today, walk into any AA meeting and you're going to find a lot of people seeking recovery from alcoholism, or at least from their drinking issues, and they're going to be attending these 12-step support meetings. It goes on to say, they will be only too glad to assist you. Don't start out as an evangelist or reformer. So that's one of the first things you want to understand. When you want to help somebody to recover from alcoholism, you don't want to start out as an evangelist or a reformer. Unfortunately, a lot of prejudice exists. You'll be handicapped if you arouse it. Ministers and doctors are competent, and you can learn much from them if you wish. But it happens that because of our own drinking experience, you can be uniquely useful to other alcoholics. So cooperate. Never criticize. Did you hear that? There's another thing. First, don't come off as preachy. Secondly, cooperate. Never criticize. So where does this attitude of, shut up, sit down, you have nothing to say, take the cotton out of your ears and shove it in your mouth, where does that come from? It says here, never criticize. So it certainly doesn't come from the literature. Then it says, to be helpful is our only aim. So how is that helpful if you're being critical and criticizing, right? It goes on to read, when you discover a prospect for Alcoholics Anonymous, find out all you can about him. If he does not want to stop drinking, don't waste time trying to persuade him. Listen, a long time ago, I made the decision that I wasn't going to spend any more of my time trying to talk other people into saving their own life, when there are plenty of people lining up wanting help. It goes on to read, you may spoil a later opportunity. This advice is given for his family also. They should be patient, realizing they are dealing with a sick person. If there is any indication that he wants to stop, have a good talk with the person most interested in him, usually his wife. Get an idea of his behavior, his problems, his background, the seriousness of his condition, and his religious leanings. You need this information to put yourself in his place, to see how you would like him to approach you if the tables were turned. In other words, talk to the people closest to him. Find out a little bit of history. Sometimes it is wise to wait till he goes on a binge. The family may object to this, but unless he is in a dangerous physical condition, it is better to risk it. Don't deal with him when he is very drunk, unless he is ugly and the family needs your help. Wait for the end of the spree, or at least for a lucid interval. Then let his family or a friend ask him if he wants to quit for good, and if he would go to any extreme to do so. Did you notice there it doesn't say, do you want to quit one day at a time? No, it says, does he want to quit for good? That's important. And then this is where we get that question. Are you willing to go to any length to do so? If he says yes, and here is a very important statement, then his attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered. Listen, if you don't believe that you have recovered, if you believe you're constantly in recovery, then you probably ought not to be going by this book and sponsoring somebody or giving away this 12-step message, because it says here he should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered. Why would he want something from you that you can't offer? It goes on to read, you should be described to him as one of a fellowship who, as part of their own recovery, try to help others, and who will be glad to talk to him if he cares to see you. If he does not want to see you, never force yourself upon him. There's just a little tidbit of working with others. This is important stuff. And really, if you want the directions, if you want the accurate path on how to help somebody, I encourage you to pick up this book, Alcoholics Anonymous, affectionately known by many as the Big Book, and read this chapter, Working with Others. One more note. On page 99, then moving over to page 100 in the third edition, it states, remind the prospect. Who's the prospect? That's the new guy. Remind the prospect that his recovery is not dependent upon people. It is dependent upon his relationship with God. Did you get that? It's not dependent on the meetings. It's not dependent on the sponsor. It's not dependent on you. It's not dependent on his pastor or his rabbi. It's dependent on his personal relationship with the Creator, with God himself. That's where the dependency lies. And unfortunately, we've been teaching that meeting makers are the ones that make it. Well, that's a good place to start, and you can start anywhere as long as it makes sense to you. But the whole point of the 12-step process is to move on from there. If there is not a dependency upon God developed and a relationship upon God, and listen to me well, I'm not talking about religiosity, okay? I'm talking about a relationship with God. If that is not developed somewhere in this process, the chances of a person actually experiencing a state of recovery is probably pretty slim, if they are truly alcoholic. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, as promised, a sound clip from the Addiction Podcast Show. That is Dr. Rob Kelly's show, his personal podcast, with his co-host, Kristen Nolan, and his special guest, Rick P. Don't go away. We'll be back right after this. Founded by a father and son in addiction recovery, Exact Nature's all-natural CBD products are specially formulated to help you face the exceptional challenges of recovery, be it addictive cravings, depression, anxiety, or improving sleep. Learn more at exactnature.com. Hey, and don't forget this great deal for you, our listeners. When ordering from Exact Nature, use the discount code TAKE12, that's TAKE, the number 12, and you'll receive 20% off of your order. All righty, welcome back to the show. You have tuned into the Rob Kelly Hour with America's and the world's addiction doctor, Dr. Rob Kelly. Unfortunately, he is not able to be with us on this broadcast because he is lending his services to helping others, as he does so well in the recovery community, and was just not able to make this show. He will be back with us next month. All right, picking up where we left off on working with others. Now, let me say before we play this sound clip, how important it is, if you are going to work with another alcoholic, that you actually have had a spiritual awakening as a result of these 12 steps. And may I just say, it is impossible to have a spiritual awakening as a result of steps you haven't done. Did you hear me? I'm not saying it's impossible to have a spiritual awakening. I'm just saying not as a result of steps you haven't done. And if you're going to follow the directions, and that is so vitally important, if you're going to follow the directions in the basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous, then you need to follow the directions. It is not a program of suggestions. It is a suggested program in its entirety. You take it all or not at all. Now, one of the problems that we have had in our 12-step support meetings is many times we don't qualify people. We assume because they say they're alcoholic that they're alcoholic. And there is a lack of understanding of what that even means. You know, first of all, when you drink, do you experience the phenomenon of craving? That is to say, you have little or no control over how much you drink or how often? And when you're sober, are you unable to stay sober? You know, the alcoholic brain is different than the normal temperate drinker. Read the literature. You'll find that out. The way some of us think when we're stone cold sober is the difference between an alcoholic and somebody who is, for instance, a heavy drinker. You need to understand that. And for more of that information, I would recommend that you tune into Walking Through the Big Book series. These are 34 one-hour workshops in audio format that myself and Chris Schroeder have put together some time ago. You can visit us at take12radio.com, click on the Recovery Workshops page or banner, and then click on Walking Through the Big Book. Also, you can listen to the workshops Walking Through the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Get that information so you can understand what you're dealing with here. It's vitally important. And then don't become dependent on the fellowship. You need to learn a dependency upon God. If you don't have a dependency on a power greater than yourself, you can't pass that on to somebody. You can't share something that you don't have. So get in this book. This is where the filet mignon of your recovery is, in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, if you are a member of AA. All right. Without further ado, here is from the Addiction Podcast Show. Here is a segment with Kristen Nolan, the co-host alongside of Dr. Rob Kelly, and their guest, Rick P., talking about this problem of qualifying people to find out if they truly are the real deal.
We stopped qualifying the alcoholic when they first came in, you know, and the message changed, and all of a sudden now we have all these people that are in there that are sponsoring people, and they don't have anything or the tools or even the experience, the psychic change, the spiritual experience that real alcoholic needs. And you can go into any group and you can tell who's the real one, who's a real alcoholic and who's not. And some of the things I used to love to hear was, "I'm an alcoholic if I say I am." No, you're not. And well, we're going to take except, but they get upset and they get, pissed off about that. And it's like, well, just because you're upset doesn't mean you're right. And so, knowing what I know now, I fell into that category of we're going to fix everything and everyone. And then when I got sober this last time, like these cats, they sat me down and they said, "We're going to qualify you, make sure that you're in the right room, Rick, because you might not belong here." I thought to myself, holy crap. And it took about an hour and a half, and they qualified me. And one of the guys reached over and he looked over at me and he said, "Welcome, you're one of us." And I was like, thank God, what do I got to do to get started? And they said, "Well, you're going to do it exactly the way we did it, and it's exactly by the book. We're not going to do it your way, Rick." And I was all for it, whatever they wanted me to do. So I think AA buckled. And Bill Wilson in 1958, and you can YouTube it, said that if AA is ever destroyed, it's going to be destroyed from within. It's because we just let everything come in, and the message has become watered down. And the other big thing I think it is crappy sponsorship, and I wholeheartedly believe that.
Rick, so would you say that it's maybe a lack of following traditions, or keeping it old school like it used to be?
What are we really here for? Who are we really here for? We're here for the chronic alcoholic whose last hope is to have a spiritual experience and a relationship with God, period. So we have people that come in that don't have to have that. They can get sober. They can get dry, but they don't have to have a spiritual experience. They don't have to have a relationship with God. And if I'm an alcoholic that has to have that in order to live and to change my life, and I'm going to depend on somebody that doesn't, what do we have? Now I'm not getting the things that I absolutely need. And then I'm going to turn around later on after I get drunk and I'm going to say, "I tried AA and it didn't work." And why is because I listen to the person that comes in here that came in before I did, who didn't have to have a spiritual experience. All he does is just go to a lot of meetings because it's a social event to him, and he sits in the corner, he talks about this stuff. The new person comes in and hears, oh, he's got 50 years of sobriety. Wow, that must be the right way to do it. But then they can't understand, if they're the real alcoholic, why their lives aren't getting any better. If you're the real alcoholic and you take the booze and the alcohol away, your life gets worse. It always does, unless you fill it with that spiritual God thing. You fix the spiritual malady, and there are a lot of people out there that just don't depend on that. They don't have to have that, and I hate
there's the
that.
key. There's the key. I love it. They don't have to have that.
Yeah,
And I see it all too many times. The guy in the room with 50 years, as you say, the guy who doesn't really do any work, doesn't sponsor anybody, shouts about the book and quotes wrong things at the book because they heard it off a friend of his or his sponsor or something. They're the guys in AA that I don't really like because, how many people have been killed with their fancy lines and sponsorship? That's the bottom line. And what do we know when we go in? We see this guy with 50 years of rights and go, yeah, I want that. But what you got to look at is he may be sat there now in 50 years. What's his life like? How many people has he helped? When's the last time he gave $10 to starving person? When's it, they don't do that. And then we go in and see these guys and go, well, that's what I've got to look forward to. And the guy will share now and again, oh, it's been a bad day today. Shut up.
Yeah.
Jeez, what the hell are you? What? It's not, this is the deal in the meetings that I used to go to. It's not your job to come here and dump your shit.
Right.
That's why God gave us sponsors. It's not your deal to come here and tell war stories. That's why God gave us doctors. And hopefully one day someone will stumble off the streets when he's just about to blow his head off and listen to somebody who has recovered from the homeless state of mind and body, who shares from their heart and gives them hope that he can do this. And that's basically what I live for. And I know you do too, as Rick, is let's carry this message. Final question is how important is a spiritual or spirituality with a program that somebody wants to do to stop drinking?
Oh my God. It's the one main ingredient. Without it, that's like trying to make sugar cookies without sugar, and so the one of the things that happened with me when I was working with my sponsor, and this is all early on, and I remember him asking me, do you believe in God? And I said yes. This was on step 2, and I said yes. He goes, okay, we're not gonna have another word about it. We're done with it. We're not gonna write about it or none of that stuff. Let's go straight into step 3. Went straight into step 3. Are you willing to have that God that you say you believe in be a part of your life today? I said yes, and then they took me down to where it said that what our real job is to give somebody hope. And through selfless sacrifice, or the way that we do these things. In the 3rd step, it tells us exactly what our marching orders are. Every time we go into an AA meeting, what we're doing is that we're doing that 3rd step. We're telling somebody how God is working in my life today. How God is working in my life today. That's my director. He's my manager. He's the one that's gonna tell me what to do, where to go, how to do it, when to do it, and all that other kind of stuff. And then and if you're doing the right thing the right way, hey, it's great. I was talking to one of the guys that called me this morning. It was like around 8 o'clock or something like that, and they said, hey, I keep praying for sobriety and for God to keep me sober. And I said, well, why are you doing that? You're already sober. Why are you asking God to keep you sober? Instead, why don't you thank him for the sobriety that you have? And I didn't think about that. So what does our real dependence lay? It has to be, for me, it has to be with God. I have to have a relationship with God every day, constantly, or I'm dead. That's just that simple.
Thing. Yeah. And the stuff that we hear in the room sometimes is, you can choose. You can choose a God of your own understanding. Yeah. That's not true. That's not in the big book. It's because if you understand Him. And then all the other stuff that you hear is the reason why we brought away. And I mean, I know our meeting is crucial for me because we talk about the book and we talk about the solution. And when people are sharing, they share a quick war story and then they get right into the solution because that's what it's about. Yeah. Anybody listening today or watching Rick who's struggling with alcoholism, or parents that have a son or wife or husband that's suffering, what advice would you give them today?
It's funny. One of the worst things that I see, especially a family member do to somebody that's suffering from alcoholism, is to try to hold them up and to enable them, and to help them. In other words, they have to find their own way. They're going to have to find their own bottom. They're going to have to hit. So the longer that we try to help them and hope and hold them up, the longer it's going to take for them to get well. You know, I went and I talked to this lady. I met with her a couple of months ago, and she said, "I'm doing everything I can to help my son get sober." And then I told her, "You need to stop.
Yeah.
You need to stop, because he's never going to get well if you keep doing that." And it may sound cruel to those of us that don't understand, but it's usually the best course to take, and is to let them crash, let them hit bottom, and then see what you have after that. But that would be, let them find their own way. You have to. For years, my family, and God bless them, had got me out of so many pickles. Got me good lawyers, and paid for this and paid for that, and got me out of here and got me out of that, and got my car out of the pound, all this other kind of stuff. And then what did I do? I turned right around and did it again.
No consequences.
Right? And no consequences.
Yeah.
So that's what I think. That's what I think it is.
All right, there you go. Did we irritate some of you? Well, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it'll stop and make you think. This watered down, wishy-washy, just come on in. We'll love you till you can love yourself. You don't have to work any steps. Just keep coming back. Here's some bad coffee. Whine about your day. Meetings is not helping anybody. It's not helping to get anybody any kind of solution when it comes to active alcoholism or even addiction, narcotic addiction. We need to get back to basics. Listen, this whole thing is about helping you develop a relationship with a power greater than yourself to help you solve your problem. If we're not doing that, well, then we're not doing our job. Well, listen, we do have a closing song to lighten the mood a little bit, maybe. It is by our good friend, the late, great Conley Ray White, and it is entitled Higher Power.
I was drowning in a raging sea of confusion. Temptation slowly pulled me in. I was fighting for my life and I was losing. Then I felt it, something stronger took my hand. And there's a higher power, I feel him watching over me, leading me to sanity. There's a higher power, someone I know who really cares, and I pray his will be done. If you're searching, but you feel like there's no answer, 'cause addiction has torn your world apart, just remember the truth lies in surrender, and you'll find it deep inside your heart. higher power. I feel him watching over me, leading me to sanity. There's a higher power, someone I know who really cares, and I pray his will be done. And there's a higher power, I feel him watching over me, leading me to sanity. There's a higher power, someone I know who really cares, and I pray his will.
Higher Power by Conley Ray White. Hey, listen, for more of his music, visit us at take12radio.com. Click on the Recovery Music banner. All right. If you'd like to tune in to more of the Rob Kelly Hour, we have a dedicated webpage just for you. Visit us at take12radio.com. Click on the Recovery Workshops banner, and there you'll find the link to the Rob Kelly Hour. Past shows and archives available for download for fun and for free. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man, along with the Take 12 Recovery Radio family and Dr. Rob Kelly. We are wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.